You are watching
We
Xirtus.
know for a fact, based on documentation, that the early Freemasonry, talking about before Albert Pike, that and probably after too, but we know before this is documented that ayahuasca, this is Amazonian brew, a psychedelic Amazonian brew, was given to initiates at a certain stage. And so then go that talk about something that predates Burroughs, and when we are like, so I think that it's really kind of interesting,
Well,
like when we have
there's
these stories.
another
Yeah.
there's another version of that too, where it was acacia, because acacia is also a
Acacia is
precursor for
DMT.
DMT.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know
So,
that. Isn't that the type of wood that's in the Bible?
Yeah, it's what the tabernacle was built out of, and it's even what the Ark of the Covenant was built out of. Is it?
and it's in masonry. It's one of the most sacred symbols
Right.
that represents reincarnation, and it's where you're able to find the god that the ruffians have killed, or at least the master builder that the three ruffians killed. They find his body because they find an acacia spray growing out of the
Right. And
ground.
there's different types of acacia. So there's like the Eastern acacia or whatever. I'm no expert, but I will say that I transcribed the section of the Tanakh. I believe it's in the book of, is it First Kings, I think, where it's describing the temple incense, and it lists off a bunch of ingredients, and it's like a lot of the ingredients they literally don't know what they were. Like they're words in Hebrew, but they're like, I don't know what this is. But acacia is included in the temple incense. So
What
not only do we know that the tabernacle was built out of acacia because it says so, whatever but we know that whatever they were hotboxing this room, right? With this, it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna light some Nog Champa. This is like a big container, and they're just filling the room with smoke. And a lot of the ingredients we don't even know what they are, but among those are ingredients that we know for a fact had psychedelic properties. So they were getting high. Like this is not debatable,
Do you
you know.
think Acacia and Akashic, like Akashic records, are linked
I don't think that
phonetically?
there's an etymological connection, but perhaps synchronistic.
I want to point out too, David, the Masons or Ben Franklin and the Hellfire Club are like these old secret societies doing psychedelics. Like in my mind, that's literally what the original secret societies were formed over. Like the ancient secret mystery schools, they used to eat kykeon, right? And this was like the cult of Demeter, and I can't remember the exact name of this particular cult, but it's the one that they're all fashioned after, and it was intentionally used the same way in like a MK Ultra trauma programming response way. But you had the authors and masters of Greek tragedy and like playwriting,
Thank you. I was gonna
along
say, yeah.
with creating these crazy effects that no one had at the time to simulate lightning and weird forms of lighting and heat and cold and like having sense on the go, and having all that be your first time that you trip, and for a lot of people the only time that you trip. And the rumor was that Alexander went there as along with like Diogenes of Sinope. So like, you have like the poorest of people were invited, the richest of people were invited, men
That's
and
right.
women were invited, but you're only allowed to go there one time because it was seen as like this profane thing, and that was one of the punishments. They had a blood oath. It was like, we will kill you if you reveal these secrets, but revealing the secret was to like smuggle some out or make it on your own and then give it out at a dinner party, because it was seen
Right.
as this violation of such a sacred learning event that shouldn't be done outside this very specific ritual. It's kind of how people treat ayahuasca now. It's like, how dare you hit that DMT vape pen while you're playing GTA 6? Like
Yeah,
you have to fly to
I kind of
Colombia to
agree
do
with
that.
that, though. I don't think you should be playing GTA 6 smoking a vape
I
pen.
do.
yeah.
To each
I
their own.
absolutely do.
I
But
don't know,
that's
but the way, like, not that you shouldn't as a judgment, but just like if what potential exists here, because these things they're not like the way we treat drugs. I think is kind of weird sometimes, where it's like a spectator type thing, where you're like, you take this thing, these things happen, that's that. Like there is a
You better put on a good
participatory
show for me. Yeah.
there's a participatory element to it that doesn't have to be like like I think at the same time you go extreme the other direction, you end up being too anal, like this guy doing mushrooms at this moment. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I mean, maybe that's
Let's check
what's
in on
best
him.
for him. You know, that's his journey or whatever. You know, but like I look at like what the Dionysian theater was as described by Nietzsche in The Birth of Tragedy from the Spirit of Music, and like it feels like it's not like that is a directed thing. Like what? Like if I drop acid and I go for a car ride, like I'm driving my car, it feels like kind of like it's what I'm going to drive perfectly. Like if I get pulled over, I'll walk the line perfectly for the cop if he says walk this line, but I'll do it in a really interesting way. So it's like
We're not advocating to drive on psychedelics.
Well,
right,
that's
but it
be
feels.
clear.
But my point is that it feels like a waste to me of the potential that exists there. Not just like what I'm putting out into the world, but even for myself and my own. Like, what am I doing with this moment? But then again, all moments are holy. We walk around like there's all these, you know, there's holy moments and there's all the other moments. But what about this moment right now? Like, this is a holy moment. Let's have a holy moment. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a similar, like, I remember, I don't know, like 13, 14. It was when Small Soldiers came out, and I had the opportunity to partake in something, and it seemed like the greatest idea at the time. And it was just like the biggest waste. It just, because you're sitting in a dark room and all of the sensory is being fed to you, and you don't have to like create things. And it was only after the movie ended and the lights came on, you walk around and you're like among people, like then it's like starts to kick in. So there's a definitely a way that you can waste it, but also I guess the point being made is that there, like, if there was a spectrum, the two extremes are like not like just watching a movie and not doing anything, you know, go and watching Small Soldiers in the theater. And then there's the version where you have to fly to Colombia and have like an ancient shaman come and beat you with like a palmetto leaf, and then you got to throw up a few times and cry and then do it again. And you know what I mean? Like, you're not allowed to touch your phone. And I feel that there's definitely somewhere in between where like you're allowed to like drink Mountain Dew and play a video game while also reaching some next level and talking to God.
Sure.
Well, like
That's
psychedelics were always connected to religion, right? And so it's interesting that in the 20th century, Western civilization rediscovered psychedelics,
Through
and
Gordon
then
Wasson.
right, well, yeah, and then became like an initiatory ritual almost for many people who then rediscovered some form of spirituality through it, right? Because it was always like you're going to these ancient mystery schools, you're going into the cave with the lights and everything, but you're literally invoking these archetypes and these gods, right? And so we've been detached from that, but a lot of people, you use psychedelics and start to rediscover psi abilities, you rediscover spirits, you make contact with aliens, you know, like it's been a re-enchanting as well.
Dude, I just realized I made a reference. I was looking at the comments, and it's like the guy that I was referencing, who's in Waking Life, who says that thing about the holy moment sequence. That guy made a documentary called "In the Bathtub of the World," which is really good, where he filmed himself every day for a year. And at one point in the middle of that movie, he takes a bunch of mushrooms and films himself on mushrooms. And like just like as part of his, you know, this is what I did, so this is what I'm filming.
Tripping with
funny.
Kave.
Thank
Waking
you.
Life is set in Austin, right?
The
Yes.
film itself was set in Austin. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Richard
because that's where
Linklater-
Alex Jones lived. That was Richard Linklater. Yeah, totally.
Huh.
You guys were talking about tripping while playing video games. Have you guys heard that like kids who like focus on video games, who do like 10 hours of video games a day, don't dream? Has anyone else heard that?
I haven't heard that,
No,
no.
wow.
Yeah, that's something that I'd read somewhere, which is interesting because you start putting all that imaginative energy, and which is essentially spiritual energy, into this simulated world, right? And no judgment call there. Maybe that's
No, there
better
shouldn't
world
be.
than ours.
In fact, that was what Krishnamurti said, that there's like a level of when you're absolutely alert throughout the day, it's possible not to dream, and that you're actually getting another level of rest. So I don't even necessarily know if that's a bad thing per se. Ultimately, it's just I guess there's other avenues that you could achieve that, not through video games, is the point. But yeah,
Right.
Have you guys heard of the Tetris effect before? So
Maybe.
it's
What do
actually
you got?
named after this now. That when the Tetris video game came out, there were so many people that were hooked on it and playing it nonstop that your normal waking patterns start to fit the game. So as you walk around in your house, you're literally like imagining if you were to sit down on your couch that you have to be a certain piece that would like fit with the couch piece. And it's a mental switch, and that people also repeated that their dreams would reflect this. So if you play Tetris all day, then your mind continues to play Tetris even while you're sleeping.
With trimming weed, dude. I'd like.
So, yeah, well, that's essentially it's not like only Tetris causes it. This is the Tetris effect, and it's the same thing that if you're hyper and I when I was learning software development like early on, like in life, that I would be like just nose deep in these books, and I would be the same thing. I'd wake up out of bed and be like, me dot awake equals true, and that was just like it took a while to snap out of this Tetris effect.
Well, do you know who died this week? The guy who came up with the DNA sequence.
Huh. Oh, realized the spiral nature of it on acid.
Yeah. So, but there was another guy who also realized the structure, but he was having a fever dream.
Wow.
And so with the Hellfire Club, I think that if we're talking about the Tetris effect, if you were consumed by a task that you do daily for several hours a day, but you don't have access to chemicals, when you have that first break from your work because you get sick and you have a fever dream, I think it became common knowledge that these amazing insights would jump out at you during the fever dream. And I think the Hellfire Club is kind of saying, hey, these chemicals allow you to have a fever dream. That's why it's the Hellfire Club. And that these bright ideas flash at you in the sort of psychosis of fight or flight and survival in that sort of turbulence. And so they realized that if you did it with a certain amount of frequency and a certain amount of conditions, you could actually generate actual information that you could use in the real world.
Dude, there's a book called The Anesthetic Revelation, and it was by this guy named Paul Benjamin Blood or Benjamin Paul Blood. I always get those mixed up. But he went to, this was, man, I think it was like in the 19th century, and he had to go and get like a tooth extracted. And when he went to the dentist, the use of an anesthetic for nitrous oxide was like now becoming a thing. So he does the nitrous oxide, gets the teeth removed, and as he's walking back home and he's coming down, he swears that it was the first time in his life that he fully understood Hegel. But by the time he got home, he couldn't understand it anymore. And this wasn't a joke. He got so obsessed with this that he goes back to the dentist and he figures out a way that for the next 40 years of his life, I think, he continues to use nitrous oxide as an experiment. And his hypothesis was that when he goes to this nitrous oxide land, that he could talk to these ancient philosophers, these ascended masters, and he could learn all this info. But the second that the veil started to like dissolve and he had to come back in this world, that all that information kept getting lost. And he was like, if I can just grab like 0.5% of it with me and I just do it a few hundred times, then maybe I can piece together like actual ancient teachings that I'm getting from this other realm. And no one gives him credit because it was like nitrous and it wasn't something like sexy and cool like mushrooms or whatever, but it was the exact same premise.
Oh, there we go, my people. How's it going? Hey. Guys. I'm here with Ian Crossland. We're shooting a graphene documentary in Texas at Rice University. We're going to have to go back to filming this doc because we got to go do some more of it. We're like one of the last things we're going to do right now is go back to the Rice University, but I love you, and I hope you guys keep going without me, and we'll do it again next week.
I love the cameo on your own show. That's great.
What has become of me? All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you soon.